北京时间早上9点半的
It's 9:30 a.m. Beijing time at Beijing Daxing Airport.
过了边检。
I have already passed the border inspection and the terminal is the same as Capital Terminal 3 with an empty terminal hall.
候机大厅。
这是浦东机场吗？
This is Pudong Airport. The entire airport is empty and there is no one at all.
根本就没有人。
In previous years, this time of year, people were coming and going everywhere, but this year there were hardly any people at all.
今年根本就没什么人。
T2 的停车场空无一人。
The parking lot of Terminal 2 is empty. The parking lot that used to be bustling is now deserted. This is my first time seeing a parking area like this at the Capital Airport. Show it. Have you seen a parking area like this at the Capital Airport?
你们见过吗？
Recently, the CCP opened unilateral visa exemptions to European and American countries. The authorities have relaxed the visa exemption for 54 countries, including the US, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Australia, etc. But it still cannot attract Western tourists. At the same time, foreign businessmen are also leaving China. Today, we'll discuss the topic, foreigners have left and the flow of people at China's international airports is sluggish. But before we do, we would like to invite you to subscribe. Your support is our greatest motivation and allows us to bring you more valuable content. Now, moving on. Analysts believe that foreigners do not go to China because they cannot access overseas websites when they enter China, which they find very inconvenient. In addition, they don't have WeChat Pay or Google Maps, making it almost impossible for them to get around in China. However, they are reluctant to download these apps, fearing their privacy will be stolen. The CCP government has many regulations that make them feel very troublesome. For example, foreigners entering China must report to the local police station within 24 hours. People often check ID cards on the streets of Beijing, and buses entering Beijing also require passengers to hand in their ID cards or get off the bus for inspection, etc., so many foreigners don't come. A Tsinghua University scholar recently posted a video comparing the passenger flow at Beijing Capital International Airport and Osaka International Airport. It can be seen that the International Departure Lounge at Beijing Capital Airport T3 is sparsely populated. He couldn't help but sigh. Where have the foreigners gone? The blogger also said that the capital airport was deserted.
Peter 出国考察，路过首都机场 T3。
I passed the Capital Airport T3 on an overseas inspection trip. How is the economy? Is there a trade decoupling? The status of T3 is the best explanation. The Sunrise duty-free shop is pretending to be renovated, but I think it's likely that it can no longer be used in such a large area. The duty-free shops on the left and the duty-free shops on the right are all closed. Few people were in the tobacco and alcohol area, and the cosmetics area was small and empty. Boss, Bailey, Flair, and CK were almost all closed. However, the catering business in this transportation hub was still strong, with so many people at 3 p.m. In summary, the capital's international airport has a vast throughput and is now relatively sluggish. On the one hand, in this economic cycle, people are more willing to travel domestically rather than traveling abroad. On the other hand, under the intense pressure of decoupling, Western countries are no longer willing to spend money in China.
这是咋了？
What's going on? Why is Capital Airport T3 so deserted? In the past, there was a constant stream of cars dropping off passengers on the departure floor, and it was challenging to find a parking space.
内部大厅也是。
The lobby is also like this, and there is no longer the hustle and bustle of the past.
自助机上没有一个人。
No one checks in at the self-service machine. Only a few people are at the manual counter.
再看看安检证。
Look at the security check here. There is no need to queue.
候机位上。
There is almost no one in the waiting room. Is it possible that the passengers have not arrived?
你敢想象吗？现在是
Can you imagine? It's 2 p.m. on Monday in the China Eastern Airlines lounge at Beijing Daxing Airport, the V1 lounge. There are only 2 people in the entire lounge.
休息室里只有2个人。然后我点了他的这个
I ordered a cross-bridge rice noodle, which is today's meal. The chicken is very tender and delicious. This is fried rice. I also ordered mint milk, which is no longer available. It's pretty tasty, but it's too bleak.
蛮好喝的，实在是太萧条了。
Compared with other airline lounges, it's a world of difference.
天壤之别。
The number of foreign tourists arriving in China in 2024 is much lower than in 2019. Neighboring countries such as Japan, Vietnam, Thailand, and India have welcomed an increasing number of foreigners. Taking Japan as an example, the Japan National Tourism Organization released estimated data last month that the number of foreign tourists visiting Japan from January to November 2024 will reach 33.38 million, exceeding the annual record of 31.88 million set in 2019. According to the data released by the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of China on inbound tourism received by travel agencies nationwide in the first 3 quarters of 2024, the total number of people accepted by travel agencies nationwide in the first 3 quarters was only 5.05 million. The third quarter is the peak tourism season with less than 2 million people. Some netizens said, "I see it with my own eyes and feel pain in my heart. If the internet is not open, how can there be tourists? This is the consequence of the CCP catching spies. You are rejecting the world and the world is also rejecting you." As foreigners stopped coming, Chinese airports became deserted. There were no people at the capital airport and Shanghai airport. We arrived at Capital Airport T2. This is its underground parking lot. Look, there are basically no cars. It's completely empty. The day before yesterday, when we came to pick someone up, it was also empty. There was still no one in the departure hall. I wondered if our flight was the only one this morning. Anyway, there were very few people there, and I felt a bit like a VIP. Look at the current business situation at Shanghai Pudong Airport. I can't find a place to eat. Everyone is resting and sleeping. This one is open and sells local specialities. It's called Shanghai Taste. The tavern next to it is closed. This one is a jewelry store, probably selling jewelry gifts, and it's been closed for a long time. Further ahead, except for the toilets, there are no businesses. Everything is blocked. In the past, when you went to Shanghai Airport, there were so many foreigners that you felt like you were at an international airport, just like going abroad. Now, there are only a few foreigners in the entire airport. It's completely empty, very deserted. Such a prime location in Hongqiao Terminal 2 is closed down. The real economy is quite bad. This place is costly. This year, the airport has fewer people than in previous years. The golden summer vacation period should have more people. It's a good time for travel and tourism. However, this year, it's indeed deserted. You can see that there are very few people in the entire airport. The whole economic environment starkly contrasts previous years, and many business districts are closed. Advertising at airports is also very different this year. In the past, it was dominated by the real estate, automobile, and IT industries, but this year it has become the consulting advertising industry. About 5 or 6 out of 10, including Xiaodong Consulting and H&H, are relatively well known, which shows that the market is not easy to operate. Look at the real Pudong Airport International Area at 8 p.m. There was no need to queue up at the border checkpoint, and there was no one. Starbucks was closed. The Sunrise duty-free shop only had one door open, and there was no one. This row of shops was closed, and the few open had no customers. Some duty-free shops were directly marked as temporarily closed. As China's economy continues to decline, the US, Europe, and other countries have intensified sanctions on the CCP. Foreign companies in China have withdrawn from China and turned to investing in Southeast Asia, India, and other countries, showing that foreign investors have lost confidence in the Chinese economy. The CCP has also implemented various regulatory measures to accelerate the withdrawal of foreign companies from China. The CCP's introduction of the national security law has made foreign companies tread on thin ice. If they take action or even say something wrong, they may be accused of being spies. The foreigner said that his wife was from Beijing and they settled in Beijing. In recent years, many foreigners have left China.
现在很多朋友都走了。
Many of my friends have left. Many foreigners left from the beginning to the end of the epidemic, and later they did not return. In addition, no new foreigners are coming. It's not to say that there are no new foreigners, but I feel there are fewer. At least in Beijing, I participated in various foreign groups and found that there are really fewer foreigners. There are 300 to 400 people in the group, but very few people talk. Everyone has left, just like a desert.
外国人的群嘛，我就发现了，真的少了好多。
Foreigners are leaving China like crazy. Let me share some data. The number of foreigners living in China for a long time is decreasing rapidly. In the past 10 years, the number of French people has reduced by 40%. The number of Americans has decreased by 23%, and the number of Germans, Japanese, and Italians has also reduced to varying degrees. There were 200,000 foreigners in Shanghai in 2011, but only 160,000 in 2021. Wangjing, the largest Korean settlement in Beijing, once had hundreds of thousands of Koreans, but now has only 20,000. Looking across China, foreign residents account for only 0.05%, which is even lower than Laos and Cambodia, not to mention Japan and South Korea.
老外街，上海的老外街。
Shanghai's Foreigners Street used to be brightly lit and crowded with people, but now all the foreigners are gone and no one can be seen. Today is the weekend and there was no one on the foreign street on weekend nights.
周末晚上的老外街，没人。
今天外卖小哥来带大家兜一下老外街。
Today, the delivery guy will show you around Foreigner Street. I heard about this street a long time ago. It's a street where wealthy people go. This is the front end of Foreigner Street, close to Hongmei Road. There was no one on the street, and many shops are closed. There are very few bankruptcies because those who can open businesses in such locations are bosses with money. But many of his shops have already closed as they have gone home for the new year, and these shops are almost closed. This is my first time seeing so few foreigners on the street. I haven't seen it even during the pandemic. Many shops here come and go, and many are closed. We are almost at the exit of Foreigner Street. You can see the exit of Hongmei Road in front of us. The investment promotion phone number here is Foreigner Street, which has been recruiting investors all the time and has never stopped.
老外街是一直在招商，从未停止过。
外国人现在确实是越来越少了。
In the past decades, there have been many foreign companies and many executives in foreign companies. When they came to China, their wives, relatives, and children had to go to Shanghai. You can see a lot of Shanghainese, especially in 2019. At that time, there were a lot of foreigners. Now, there are indeed fewer foreigners. Moreover, there are fewer foreigners in major universities. In other words, fewer people come to Shanghai to study. This netizen believes that the departure of foreigners will cause significant harm to China's economy. Foreigners still have strong spending power because they don't save money. They spend whatever they earn, and many of their expenses are reimbursed by the company, such as food, housing, and hiring nannies. Their departure has led to a drop in rents in many high-end communities, including many high-end neighborhoods, and the cost of nannies has also dropped, so it's a big blow to us. Mr. Zhang, a Chinese Canadian, returned to China for several months last year to handle affairs. He told reporters about his personal experiences and feelings. At the end of January last year, he didn't see many foreigners on the Bund and Nanjing Road in Shanghai. The changes in Beijing were even more apparent, and there were no foreigners in Qianmen. He said, "I remember going to Qianmen in 2014. There were a lot of foreigners there. I saw foreigners holding travel guides and asking for directions. I was deeply impressed." Mr. Zhang believes that China has really regressed. No matter how much these visa policies are, such as 10-day visa-free or 144-hour visa-free, they are only temporary solutions and cannot attract foreigners. First, they can't access the internet. Second, it's difficult to pay. Little Pinks always said that you can use cash, but even if they accept cash, they can't give change. For example, in milk tea shops, restaurants, taxis, etc., if you give 100 yuan, they may be unable to give change. Mr. Zhang has a childhood friend who entered the country through Guangzhou customs. He felt that the efficiency of Chinese customs was very slow. More than 400 people were in the queue, and there were few foreigners. They were all from Southeast Asia Belt and Road countries. Only 3 or 4 of the 12 checkpoints were open, and I waited for almost an hour. He described the entry process through Taiwan customs as quick and smooth, but the Chinese customs kept asking him questions and looking through his passport. That's all for today. If you like our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share it with your friends. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.